Hey everyone, Kyle Bascom here. Today we're going to be doing front brakes on this W166 Mercedes behind us. Today we're going to be doing the procedure on a 2013 ML550. However, the procedure that we highlight today is also applicable to just about every ML and GL model years 2012 to about 2019, depending on the model. Also includes the GLE or GLS models if you have a 2016 or newer. In terms of failure symptoms that might prompt a brake rotor or brake pad replacement, if you've got any sort of pulsation when you're driving, if you're noticing decreased brake bite, like poor brake performance, if you have that brake indicator on your instrument cluster because your pads are worn down, or if you've got any sort of grinding noise from the brake system, these are all reasons why you might replace your front brakes. So now that we know what we'll be doing today, let's get into the tools that are required to complete the job. So here are the tools you're going to need to complete the job. Just for starters, getting the wheel off the vehicle. Some of these vehicles are equipped with a flower style head for the lug bolt, so you want to make sure you have the correct flower style socket that we sell on the website. I believe it is part number 4128. Additionally, you've got a T30 that's going to help you remove your rotor, 21 mil socket for your carrier bolts. This one's definitely important to have on hand. To remove the caliper, you are going to need an 11 millimeter hex, which is an uncommon size. In a pinch, you can get away with using 7/16 of an inch if you've got SAE sockets. Or like the shoulder of a T55 is another good alternative. And then lastly, for a multi-piston caliper, pad spreader with a good pad area like this one, and you always want light. Now that we know what tools are required to complete the job, let's go over to the vehicle and get started. Step one, we're going to remove this T30 fastener. It is a set screw for the brake rotor. Just taking whatever thin diameter screwdriver I have lying around. I'm sending it through the vented section of the rotor just to kind of prevent it from rotating while I try to break this free. This long T30 just happens to be the only one I have laying around, so that's what we're going to use. Okay, next thing I want to do is release the anti-rattle spring. This one has the Benz cosmetic cover on it. The cover is not available separately. If you damage it, it is riveted in one spot on the spring. So I don't really have an elegant way to do this, but when I do remove it, you'll notice I'm prying nearest the edges here and here, where it's actually physically attached to the body of the caliper. And I'll show you after I get it off. Also, sometimes what happens is I get it off, this portion comes out easy, this one hangs out until I kind of move the caliper body away. But you'll see what I'm referring to. So step one, removing the spring, just kind of squeeze it in this direction. Just make sure it moves freely back and forth. There we are. So what I was referring to, this is the cosmetic cover. It's kind of riveted onto the spring, so you don't want to use too much force to end up damaging the cover, because I don't know of a source to replace it. Benz doesn't sell it separately. So I've got the lead here for the wear sensor. It's connected to this inboard pad. I'm just going to pop that out, put it to the side. I am going to take this screwdriver in the inspection window, just pry in this direction to walk the caliper body just a little bit and retract the piston slightly. It's going to make it easier for me when after I remove the pins to allow me to get the caliper off the car. So I'm just walking it just a bit. There we are. So see, caliper body's nice and loose. Like I mentioned in the beginning of the video, a little bit of an odd size, 11 millimeter hex. I'm using a 7/16 because that's what we have and that's what works. I also mentioned the shoulder of a T55 in a pinch will work as well, because there's not a lot of torque holding these guys in. All right, so that's all disconnected. I'm just throwing a bungee on the coil spring for now, and then I'm going to hang the caliper on that guy. I'm going to attempt to slide everything off in one shot. There we are, that's all out. Popping the inboard pad out first. That way I can safely hang this caliper. Here we are. This inboard pad seems to be slightly married to the caliper, so I'll just take something and tap it off. It's just that adhesive on the backing plate was kind of holding everything in place. But that's what this guy looks like. So I slap the inboard pad back in so I don't overextend my piston retraction tool. Then I'm just ratcheting it to push the piston back into the caliper. All right, it feels like it's pretty much all the way retracted. Pop that pad back out. That's nice and flush. Now we're going to remove the carrier bolt so we can get that rotor out. All right, so now we got our bracket retaining bolt. Sometimes these feel funky coming out because they are encapsulated with like a thread locker. So if it feels like it's cross-threaded or something, probably not. All right, so that's out. It's going to require a little bit of force, a little bit of hammering to get this rotor off. So what I'm going to do next, the tool you'd normally use to hang the wheels when you're installing or removing it, or if you've got a couple of lugs lying around, just send it into the rotor so that when it does break free, it doesn't fly off on you. So this is the wheel hanger tool that I was referring to. You're going to have one in your trunk in your spare tire kit. That's what I'm going to use here. Let's say yours went for a walk. Just use a lug. That'll do the same thing. There we are. All right, so after knocking things around like that, you're going to generate a lot of dust. Step away for a little bit. What we're going to do next is the cleanup phase. We're going to clean up the hub surface a little bit, get some anti-seize on there. The caliper bracket, we're going to clean the surface where the ears ride. I'll show you all of that next. Taking out my wheel hanger. Spraying that a little bit. All right, hub surface wasn't too bad, not a lot of corrosion on there. Now we're just going to come in with the paste. So looking at where the ears ride on this bracket, it's in excellent shape, really doesn't need much in the way of cleanup at all. It's just going to take a little bit of lube on these surfaces and we'll slap the new pads on. All right, so this is our replacement rotor. I'm aligning it with my set screw dot right there. And then we've got these two dowels to kind of keep things aligned. So we're just looking out for all those points. There we are. So that's in there so that this rotor doesn't fall and end me before I grab the set screw. I'm just sending this back in. There we are. All right, so I've got my set screw here. Although I am reusing our set screw, if you find that yours is in really bad condition, so maybe the head is torn up or it's severely corroded, we do have replacements available on the website. It's just one turn. As long as that's snug, you're in good shape. All right, now I'm going to work on getting the caliper bracket back on the vehicle. I'll grab that electric ratchet that I was using before just to snug it down. So final torque on this is 85 Newton meters and then an additional 45 degrees. Now I'm going to get some lubricant on the sliding surfaces. So this nub or this portion of the wear sensor needs to be pointed out towards the meat of the pad. That's what's going to break to trip the indicator light if you're past your service limit. So I'm just going to slide that in there. This is always going to go on your inboard pad. I'm going to send the lead of the sensor through the inspection hole and then pop the retention clips into the center of the piston. Sometimes it's a little hard to get it in there that first go around. This one just kind of popped right in, which is always nice. And then as you noticed with the other pad, took a smidge of force to get it off because of the adhesive on the backing. My assumption is this adhesive it's a help with noise attenuation, noise reduction. So that's why that's on there. Putting that directly on the bracket. Sliding everything in there. All right, so next I'm going to tack my pins in. If you've got a lot of buildup on the pins, be sure to clean it up before you reinstall it. In this case, pins are in good shape. Try to stay away from putting grease on the physical pins. it could kind of bind things up and prevent the caliper from sliding correctly. So if you watch our rear video, the guide pins are a different style, and they swim in a bore in the caliper bracket that is filled with grease. So in that video, you'll see how you would check the condition of those pins and address it if it needed to be re-greased. But these don't require grease. If you are using a torque wrench, the torque value on these is 55 Newton meters. All right, so now, just gonna put this dust cap in. So now that that's in, we're gonna plug in the lead for the weir sensor. In terms of the orientation, just look for the slot in between the two electrical leads and line it up with the slot in this connector over here, and you should be in good shape. So that's in. And lastly, we're going to put in our anti-rattle spring. All right, so fortunately the springs go back in a lot easier than they come out. This tang over here, I am aligning it with the hole in the caliper right there. I'm just going to kind of, there we go, let's slide that in. And I'm just going to kind of slide everyone back in. Nice and easy. All right, so we just wrapped on the front brakes for this W166, this 2012 ML 550. As you can see, not really a hard job, very straightforward, very similar to brake jobs on other vehicles. It did require that one special tool, that 11mm hex, which is an uncommon size, but outside of that, definitely a job that you can tackle, and we offer the correct tool that you need on our website. If you have any questions about this job, be sure to leave them in the comments below. We'd also love for you to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.